When Janice's mother, Maria, gets a job as a cleaner for a wealthy family, Janice's worst fears come true. Maria is treated cruelly, culminating in the ultimate disrespect when she is called it. Fueled by rage, Janice vows to make them pay, setting the stage for a gripping story of revenge. My mother, Maria, has always been a woman of courage and immense heart. Even with all the adversities, she never lost faith in humanity. It was in this spirit that she took a job as a cleaner for the Rossi family, a wealthy and arrogant family that lived in the poshest part of town. I, Janice, knew this wasn't going to end well. For the first week, every ring of the phone made me tense, fearing bad news. And they arrived. It was an ordinary night when my phone rang and I saw her name on the screen. I answered, trying to sound optimistic. "Hi, Mom. How was the work?" There was a long, heavy pause, and then I heard my mother sob. "Janice, it was horrible." My heart tightened. What happened? They treat me as if I wasn't even human. Today, Victoria called me it. She said, "Make sure this cleans the toilet properly." I felt an anger boiling inside me, my hands shaking. "What? Did she call you it?" "Mom, you need to get out of there. Now." "I can't, Janice. I need the money. I'll hold on until I find something better." "No, Mom. No job is worth that. I'll help you until you find something else. Please leave." She hesitated, and I could almost see her wiping away her tears. "Okay, I'll think about it. Promise me, Mom." "I promise," she whispered. We hung up, and anger burned inside me. My sweet, hardworking mother was being treated like garbage, and I couldn't allow it. I spent the night awake, thinking about how to get her out of that situation. That week, scrolling through Tinder, something caught my attention. Robert, my mom's boss, was on a dating site, despite having a wife and stepson. The idea of a perfect revenge arose. I slid to the right, and to my distorted satisfaction, we matched. I started talking to him, hiding my true intentions. Every message I sent was a small victory, one step closer to exposing the truth. I was determined to make them pay for every tear they made my mother shed. Our first date was at a fancy restaurant. Robert walked in as if he owned the place, wearing an expensive suit and that smug smile. I sat and listened patiently as he talked about his wealth, his estates, and his car collection. I took a few pictures of him with my phone, pretending to check messages. Evidence collected. The second date was in a park, and on the third date in a trendy bar. I already had everything I needed to ruin it. Robert, already half drunk, was vulnerable. I took a selfie of us, his arm around my shoulder. It was the final piece of the puzzle. We met at the same restaurant where it all began. Robert was hoping for another pleasant evening, but I had other plans. I showed her all the evidence and demanded an apology and financial compensation for my mother. He, terrified, quickly gave in. Later, I handed the apology and the money to my mother. Seeing his relief was the best reward. Nobody messes with my mother and gets away with it. Not while I'm around. After that night, I knew that Robert had learned a lesson, but the battle was far from over. The Rossis had not yet felt the true impact of the humiliation they inflicted on my mother. It was time to deal with Victoria. Victoria Rossi was the icy heart of the family, the queen of the castle. She ruled with an iron fist, making it clear that anyone who entered her home was inferior. My mother was just another victim. I decided to approach Victoria directly. I met her at a charity event at the country club, where she loved to show off her wealth and influence. I entered as a friend's guest, keeping a low profile. I watched her for a while, studying her movements and interactions. She moved with calculated grace, doling out fake smiles while talking about philanthropy and social responsibility. The hypocrisy was nauseating. I approached her with a well-laid plan. "Victoria, can I talk to you for a moment?" She looked me up and down, trying to evaluate me. "Of course, honey. What is it about?" "It's about Maria, your former cleaner." Her eyes narrowed, and her smile disappeared. "What's with her?" "She told me how you treated her, and how it ended for Robert. But it's not over yet. You owe her an apology, not only to her, but to the entire community you pretend to help." Victoria laughed, a cold, humorless sound. Do you think you can come here and intimidate me? Do you know who I am? I looked her in the eyes, my voice steady. I know exactly who you are, and I know that your perfect facade is a lie. I have proof of how she treated my mother, and I'm ready to share it with all your friends here. The color disappeared from his face. What do you want? A public retraction and a significant donation to the community. Otherwise, everyone will know who you really are. Victoria knew she had no choice. And so, the deconstruction of the Rossi's arrogance continued, piece by piece. Victoria Rossi was on the ropes, but I knew she hadn't yet felt the full impact of her actions. The day after the charity event, she called an emergency meeting with her inner circle. I managed to infiltrate, thanks to a friend who worked as a waiter and gave me valuable information. The meeting took place in the Rossi's luxurious living room, with large windows that let in the sunlight, contrasting with the tense atmosphere. Victoria was seated in the center, surrounded by counselors and friends from high society. She tried to keep her composure, but her eyes revealed concern. "We're here to discuss a serious problem," she began, her voice cold. "A young woman is threatening to expose lies about our family." "These are not lies, Victoria," I said, entering the room uninvited. Everyone turned to face me, surprised by my audacity. "Who are you?" asked one of the counselors, confused. "I'm Janice, daughter of Maria, the Rossi's former cleaner," I declared, my voice steady. "And I'm here to make sure the truth is heard." Victoria stood up, trying to impose her authority. "You have no right to be here." "I have every right," I countered, pulling a USB stick out of my pocket. "On this USB stick, I have recordings and photos of how you treated my mother, and I'll share it with everyone if they don't do what's right." The room fell silent, everyone waiting for Victoria's reaction. She tried to maintain her posture, but the facade collapsed. "What do you want?" "I want a public apology and for all of you to commit to treating all employees with respect, and I want to see real change." She hesitated, but she knew she had no choice. "Okay, we will do that." And so, the first step towards the redemption of the Rossi began. But I knew that was just the tip of the iceberg. Victoria gave in to my demand for a public apology, but I knew empty words wouldn't be enough. A gesture was needed that would show everyone the sincerity of his intentions. I set up a meeting in the community hall, a simple place, but with enough room for all eyes of the city. The hall was packed on the day of the meeting. The rumors about the Rossi's crash had spread fast, and everyone was curious to see the outcome. When I entered with my mother, Maria, by my side, I felt everyone's eyes turn to us. I held my head high, determined to secure justice. Victoria was on stage, visibly uncomfortable. Robert and Oliver stood by her side, the expression of embarrassment evident on their faces. The tension was palpable when I took the microphone. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice echoing through the room. "We are here today to witness a public apology from the Rossi family to my mother, Maria, and to all the workers who were disrespected by them." Victoria took the microphone, hesitantly. I want to apologize," he said, his voice trembling. "I made mistakes and treated people with disrespect. It doesn't reflect who I want to be, and I'm sorry for everything." Her words hung in the air, but I knew we needed more. "And what do you intend to do to change, Victoria?" I asked, challenging her. She took a deep breath, trying to find courage. "In addition to the apologies, we will make a significant donation to organizations that protect workers' rights. And I commit to treating everyone with dignity and respect going forward." The room fell silent, absorbing his words. Then, one by one, people began to applaud, recognizing the gesture. I looked at my mother and saw tears of relief in her eyes. But I knew that this was only the first battle won. The war for justice and dignity was just beginning, and I was ready to keep fighting. Victoria Rossi's public apology and promise of change were just the beginning. I knew it would take time to truly transform her and her family's mindset. However, the positive response from the community was a good sign. Now, my focus was on making sure those promises weren't forgotten. The following week, I returned to the Rossi mansion to pick up some of my mother's things that had been left behind. When I arrived, I was greeted by Oliver, Robert's stepson. He seemed different, more humble. "Janice, can I talk to you for a moment?" he asked, as he led me into the living room. "Of course," I replied, curious about what he had to say. "I wanted to personally apologize for the way we treated your mother," Oliver began, looking genuinely sorry. "I never realized how much our actions affected her until I saw the impact it had on you and your mother. I want to help change that." I was surprised by his sincerity. "I appreciate your words, Oliver, but actions speak louder than words. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to make sure your family really changes?" "Yes," he replied firmly. "I want you to know that I am committed to doing whatever it takes to repair the damage we have caused." It was then that I had an idea. "If you're really committed, then come work with us in the community. Spend time helping those your family has neglected." He hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. "Okay, I will do that." From that day on, Oliver began working with us in the community. He helped with workers' rights organizations, attended events, and listened to the stories of those his family had harmed. Gradually, he began to understand the depth of the impact of his actions. Meanwhile, I continued to monitor the Rossis. Robert, in particular, was struggling to adjust to the changes. One day, I found him in the office, visibly frustrated. "Do you think that's easy?" he asked, angrily restrained. "Change our way of living and thinking?" "It's not easy, Robert," I replied calmly, "but it is necessary, and it's the least you can do after all." He was silent, reflecting on my words. He knew that change would be difficult, but he also knew that it was the only path to true redemption. Thus, the journey to transform the Rossi continued. The struggle for justice and dignity was long, but every step we took was a victory, and I was determined to make sure that my mother and all the workers were finally treated with the respect they deserved. Time passed, and, little by little, Oliver showed himself sincere in his commitment. He became a familiar face in community organizations, helping with vigor and humility. His transformation was evident, but I still had doubts about the rest of the Rossi family, especially Robert. One day, while helping out at a fundraiser for exploited workers, I saw Robert approaching, hesitant. He seemed out of place but determined. "Can I talk to you, Janice?" she asked, in a softer tone than I was used to. I took him to a quieter corner and crossed my arms. "What do you want, Robert?" He sighed, looking older and tired. "I know that apologizing is not enough, but I want to understand. I really want to change. Oliver has shown me how we have been living wrong, and I am willing to learn." The sincerity in his eyes surprised me. "Okay, Robert, if you want to really change, you need to start seeing people as human beings, not as tools. Come with us and see the reality of those you have neglected." I took Robert to a community center where workers gathered to share their stories. There, he heard reports of abuse, exploitation, and disrespect. Each story seemed to strike Robert like a blow, slowly unraveling the armor of arrogance he was wearing. Meanwhile, Victoria continued to struggle with the new reality. She remained distant, reluctant to participate in community activities. I knew that for there to be true change, she would also need to face her own failures. I decided to approach Victoria directly, knowing it would be a difficult match. I found her in her garden, a place where she sought refuge. "Victoria, we need to talk," he said, bluntly. She looked up, surprised and defensive. "About what?" "About the truth. You still don't understand the impact of your actions. You need to face this, not only for my mother, but for yourself." She fell silent, her hard expression softening a little. "And how do I do that?" "Start by listening. Come to the community center, listen to the stories. See what his actions caused. Only then can you begin to change." Victoria hesitated, but finally agreed. "Okay, I'm going." On that day, true change began to creep into the Rossi family. Oliver was already on the right track. Robert was starting to see the truth, and Victoria was taking the first step. The journey was long, but we were moving forward, and I would not rest until I saw justice and dignity restored to all who suffered at the hands of the Rossis. Victoria showed up at the community center, but it was clear that she felt out of place. The room was filled with workers, their stories of suffering and resistance echoing through the walls. I watched her closely, hoping to see some change in her haughty posture. She sat quietly, listening to each story. There were tears in the eyes of some workers, anger in the voices of others. The raw reality was there, exposed without censorship. I saw Victoria's discomfort turn into something deeper, maybe empathy, maybe regret. As an older woman began to tell her story about the exploitation she had suffered for years, I saw Victoria move, restless. At the end of the meeting, I approached her. "So, Victoria, do you still think they're just stories?" She took a deep breath, the internal struggle evident on her face. "No, I see that they are more than stories. They are lives. And I was part of their suffering. Admitting that is a start," I replied. "But there is still a lot to do." Victoria looked at me with an expression of renewed determination. "I want to help, Janice. Tell me what I can do." I took advantage of this opening. "Organize a meeting with all the employees in your house. Listen to what they have to say. And, more importantly, take steps to correct the mistakes." In the following days, Victoria did just that. It gathered all the employees, listened to their complaints, and began to implement changes. She increased wages, improved working conditions, and ensured that everyone was treated with respect. Meanwhile, Robert continued to work at the community center. He became an active volunteer, using his influence to raise funds and bring more visibility to the workers' cause. Oliver, now fully committed, began leading initiatives within his own family to ensure that the promises made were kept. He became a bridge between high society and workers, promoting mutual understanding. My mother, Maria, looked at everything with a mixture of pride and skepticism. "Have they really changed, Janice?" "I believe so, Mom," I replied, "but we will remain vigilant. The fight for justice does not end here." The Rossi transformation was underway, but the road was long. Every step taken was a victory, and I was determined to make sure that no one else suffered like my mother had suffered. Real change was not just a matter of words, but of concrete and continuous actions. And we were just getting started. The Rossi's transformation seemed well underway, but the real test was yet to come. One day, while Oliver and I were organizing a job fair for the workers in the community, an unknown man approached. He had a serious countenance and carried a bulky briefcase. "You're Janice, right?" he asked, looking me straight in the eye. "It's me. And are you?" "I'm Carlos, a former employee of the Rossi family. I need to talk to you." I took him to a quieter corner. "What do you have to tell me, Carlos?" He opened the briefcase and took out several documents. "This is a record of all the illegal activities that the Rossi family has covered up over the years. Fraud, abuse, bribery. I thought you should know." My heart raced. The revelations could destroy any progress we had made. "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because I believe you really want justice. And because no one should get away with what they did to me and others." I took the documents home, analyzing each page carefully. It was a bomb ready to explode. I showed everything to my mother, who was shocked. "This is bigger than we imagined, Janice. What are you going to do?" The next day, I met with Oliver and showed him the documents. He turned pale. "My God, Janice, it could ruin my family." "But the truth needs to come out, Oliver. You must face the consequences of your actions." Oliver was silent for a long moment, then took a deep breath. "I'm going to help you expose this, but we need to do it the right way." We decided to meet up with Robert and Victoria. When we showed them the evidence, the reaction was intense. Robert looked devastated, while Victoria was silent, tears streaming down her face. "We can't escape that," Robert said finally. "We need to surrender and confess everything." Victoria nodded, resigned. "It is the only way to true redemption." Thus, we began to plan the full exposure of the Rossi's illegal activities. The media would be involved, the authorities informed. It would be a scandal of gigantic proportions, but it was necessary. In the meantime, Oliver and I continued to work in the community, preparing the workers for the storm that was to come. Justice was on its way, and with it, the hope of a better future for all who had been oppressed. The Rossi transformation had been a long and difficult journey, but the real test of character was just beginning. I was ready to take on any challenge that arose, determined to ensure that justice prevailed, no matter the cost. The days leading up to the reveal were a mixture of tension and preparation. Robert and Victoria were ready to face the truth, although the anxiety was palpable. Oliver, determined to make amends for the mistakes of the past, worked tirelessly alongside me, arranging all the details for the public display. Finally, the day has come. We called a press conference where the truth would be revealed. The hall was packed with journalists, cameras, and onlookers. The buzz was deafening, but I was focused. The truth needed to be told. Robert spoke first, his voice trembling but firm. Today, we are here to confess our mistakes. The Rossi family committed unforgivable acts, harming many lives. We want to publicly apologize and are prepared to face the legal consequences. Victoria, standing next to him, added, "We know that our words are not enough, but we hope that our actions going forward can help repair the damage we have caused." I delivered the documents to the authorities present, detailing the frauds and abuses committed. The camera flashes were blinding, but the sense of relief and justice was powerful. The following days were a whirlwind. The news spread quickly, and the media spared no details. Robert and Victoria faced rigorous investigations, and lawsuits were filed against them. However, they remained steadfast in their commitment to change, collaborating in everything they could. Meanwhile, the community reacted in different ways. Some were still skeptical, while others began to see the Rossis in a new light, admiring their willingness to face the truth. Oliver, now more engaged than ever, was leading initiatives to support affected workers, ensuring their voices were heard and their needs met. His transformation from a privileged young man to a defender of justice was inspiring. My mother, Maria, and I watched everything with a mixture of relief and hope. She, finally freed from the weight of the past, began to become more involved in the community, helping other workers find justice and dignity. One day, while we were at the community center, Oliver pulled me aside. "Janice, I know we still have a long way to go, but I wanted to thank you. You gave us a second chance to be better." I smiled, feeling the weight of the last few months dissipate a little. "True change takes time, Oliver, but I'm glad you're by our side on this journey." The exposure of the Rossi's crimes was just the beginning. True justice lay in ensuring that such abuses never happened again. And with the community united, we were ready to build a more just and equitable future for all. Months have passed since the revelation of the Rossi family's crimes. The community was in constant transformation, marked by collective efforts for justice and reparation. Robert and Victoria faced their penalties, but they showed a true commitment to repairing the damage. Oliver, now completely dedicated to the cause, has emerged as a respected and admired leader. On a sunny Saturday, we organized a large community event in the Central Park. It was a celebration of progress, a chance for everyone to come together and reflect on the path traveled. There were food stalls, live music, and inspiring speeches from people who, once marginalized, were now finding their voices. My mother, Maria, took the stage, the microphone shaking in her hands. "Today, I am here not only as a survivor, but as a voice of hope. Together, we show that justice is possible, that no one should be treated as less than human." I thank everyone for their support and for never giving up. The applause was deafening. Tears streamed down my face, seeing my mother finally recognized and respected. When Oliver took the stage, he looked at the crowd with a gleam of determination in his eye. This event is not just a celebration, but a reminder that our work is far from over. We must continue to fight for equality, justice, and respect for all. The Rossi transformation is a symbol of what we can achieve when we come together. After the talks, I walked through the park, watching happy and hopeful faces. I found Victoria helping out in one of the stalls, serving food with a genuine smile. "You made it happen, Janice," she said, seeing me. "You gave us a chance to change." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. We all made it happen. It's just the beginning. As the sun set, Oliver walked over, holding my hand. "We have a long way to go, but with you by my side, I know we can face anything." I looked at him, feeling a deep gratitude and admiration. Together, we can change the world. That night, as the community danced under the stars, I realized that true justice was not just in penalties and reparations, but in unity and collective strength to create a better future. My mother's story and the struggle of so many others were now part of a legacy of resistance and hope. And so, Hand in hand with those who have become more than allies but family, we walk towards a fairer and brighter tomorrow, ready to face any challenge that came our way. Because, finally, we understand that true change comes from within and that together, we are invincible. Share this story with your friends. It can brighten their day and inspire them. See you in the next exciting story.